Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Hiscock, and thank you for joining us for this cooking session where you can cook along with us. Before we begin, I'd like to review with you how to participate in this session. Please feel free to enter any questions you may have throughout the presentation. We will collect those questions, and at the end of the presentation, we will address as many as we can. You'll also have an opportunity during the Q&A period to ask questions live as time permits. We also invite you to send any further questions by email to kidneyprograms@kidney.ca. The chat feature is only available on FeedLoop in the box at the right side of your screen. If you have any general comments that are not questions, you can also enter those there. Please remember that the Kidney Foundation is not able to offer medical advice. For specific information about your own situation, please speak with your healthcare team. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you renal dietitians Anja Webster and Dani Renouf. Anja Webster is a clinical dietitian working at the St. Paul's Hospital post-kidney transplant clinic in BC. She has experience working in multiple renal modalities, including chronic kidney disease, peritoneal dialysis, and hemodialysis. Through her experience in the renal department, she has offered a number of cooking classes specifically geared to patients with kidney disease. She loves listening to stories about food and finding ways to make all foods fit into individual diets. When not at work, Anja can be found hiking around the North Shore or at a nearby park playing with her kids. Dani is a registered dietitian with over 20 years of experience working with patients and clients in chronic disease prevention and management. This includes positions within the hospital sector, private industry, community and public health, and research settings. Currently, Dani works as a provincial dietitian lead for BC Renal and is the renal resource dietitian at St. Paul's Hospital and chair of BC's Renal's Dietitian Committee. She also runs her own private practice, 4 Elements Nutrition Consulting. Anja and Dani, I turn the mic over to you now.
Thank you so much, Heather, for that lovely introduction. It's a pleasure for Anja and I to be here today. And before we jump in and watch some videos, answer some of your questions, I wanted to share with you our story and how Anja and I came together and to do Come Cook With Us. I was approached by the Kidney Foundation to look at doing one segment of a cooking show back in 2022. And the first person I thought of was Anja, simply because she shares my passion for food and cooking. And she's a really talented dietitian. And so I was just very excited when she said yes. And we want to really bring joyful eating into your home. That's our priority. We want to make sure you feel that you are able to eat and enjoy the foods that you love, that you have simple cooking methods that are cost effective for you and that help stretch the dollar, but also entice your taste buds. A key focus of our cooking segments is to encourage more plant-based eating, just eating more plants like fruits and vegetables, and maybe trying tofu at one point. So we just want to make sure that you keep motivated and that you keep increasing your dietary variety, because a lot of times we do see people who are over-restricting, and that over-restriction has complications of its own, such as losing muscle mass and losing, valuable nutrients over time. So we just want to make sure that you have an appreciation for what you can eat and that you prepare food in a manner that is safe for you, but is also nourishing and enriching so that you keep your overall health and longevity. We know that most people don't get enough fruits and vegetables, and there are a multitude of reasons for that. So in our episodes, we try to tap into, what those reasons might be for you and to try to look at different perspectives so that you can consider small steps towards nourishing yourself in a better way, trying some new foods that you may have not tried before, and taking some risks if you want. Some examples of vegetarian eating in particular that we will highlight is adding or mixing in vegetarian proteins into a dish that you're already preparing at home. So for example, if you were going to do a burger, or if you were going to do a spaghetti sauce, instead of using meat entirely, that you might consider adding some beans into the dish. Or to accessorize your plate. Say you have a plate that you've put together, considering sprinkling some nuts and seeds, or adding some chickpeas to that, maybe adding a little bit more green herbs like cilantro or parsley. These are ways to what we call accessorize your plate and add more nutrients, but also add beautiful eye appeal and increase that joyful eating experience. Fresh fruits are such an important part of the diet for people living with kidney disease, and we really want to debunk some myths around restricting fruits and vegetables, which you may have read about online and seen elsewhere. In fact, we know fresh fruits and vegetables help to regulate better heart health, better potassium and phosphorus levels. So we don't want to scare people away from including fruits and vegetables. We instead want to encourage you to look at these foods rather than opting for processed food. So you'll see that in some of our recipes. Now, before further ado, we'd love to get your opinion. So we'll launch a poll next and see what you think, and then we'll go from there.
There should be a poll on your screen now. So I'd just like you to invite you to read through the question, submit your answer. Dani and Anja will be sharing the answer and provide more info once the poll closes.
Awesome. So I'm so glad that means it's the end, yes. Or okay. So it's really good to see 65% of you have commented that all of the above can be used as plant-based or meat substitutes for the protein. And that is absolutely correct. All of these, the tofu, the quinoa, chia seeds, chickpeas, and lentils contain protein. The chia seeds are the only ones that are a little bit less, or you need to use at least 3 tablespoons to get a serving of protein. And all of these can be used in food that you're already making. For example, putting chia seeds in yogurt or oatmeal to up the fiber or the protein content, or adding lentils into sauces or soups, even into pasta sauces, and mixing it in with your meats just to increase some of the protein and plants in your diet. Why we want to talk about plant-based proteins and meat, specifically these meat substitutes, is what we find a lot of the time when we hear patients or clients letting us know that they want to be more plant-based or vegetarian is people tend to just cut out the meat. And what that leaves them is feeling unsatisfied, feeling tired, feeling hungry, and it can result in not getting enough protein or iron or many other nutrients. And that's why a lot of people then find it too difficult to stick to a vegetarian diet. What you want to do is swap out the meat for other protein, because protein is what's going to help to keep you full and give you lots of other good nutrients. Another reason we like to talk about ways you can add plants or to substitute is we really, and in our cooking shows, you'll see, we really focus on things you can add rather than take away. It can help shift your mindset, especially if you start to think, well, I'm going to do vegetarian cooking and now I can't eat this, I can't eat that. And that's a very different mindset than if you can get excited about foods you will be adding and eating more of. So let's go on to our next video, which will show us, so many patients have a hard time with tofu. So we thought we would show a recipe that uses tofu in a very easy way. And we will show you how to add it into lettuce wraps.
We're going to start off with tofu lettuce wraps. They're great. They're going to use some plant-based proteins with our tofu, and we're going to whip them up quickly in a frying pan, and then you could serve them with rice or just in the lettuce wraps itself.
So tofu often gets a bad rap. A lot of people will avoid tofu because it's come up as a problem online when you're reading and all sorts of things. So what we want to do is dispel some of those myths around what you may have read or heard about tofu. Tofu is an excellent protein source. It's really, really a great way to boost your energy level. The majority of people living with kidney disease struggle getting enough protein. Tofu is light and it's airy and it's easy to digest. So it's a great source of protein for you without having that heaviness to it. Very versatile product, so you can use it in lots of different ways, savory and sweet. Here we're kind of getting inspired by some flavors that are maybe more Asian, so light flavors. We're adding some garlic and some low sodium soy sauce, right? And then we're adding some sweetness.
Yeah, what I get most of my patients always say to me is they don't know how to make tofu. They said, I've never cooked with tofu, doesn't taste like anything. And anytime I recommend it, patients are a little bit off-put. I think some of those things you said, there's a bit of a bad rep for tofu on the internet. But really, like Dani said, soy is good for you, good for your heart health. And if you can make tofu taste good, really, it takes on any flavors or any sauces that you use. It's kind of like chicken.
Yeah, it's cheap and cheerful. Chicken's expensive, right? Tofu's cheap and cheerful. Do you want the pan so you can pop the garlic
actually,
in?
do you want to turn it on?
I'll turn it on.
I am going to, so what I'm doing is chopping up or mincing some garlic. And I'm going to...
Smells good.
Great. Aromatics. And then you get some green onions. And we're going to chop the white part and leave the green part for later.
We do not throw it out, people.
No,
save
it for later. Yeah.
Save it. Save it.
You want things small because they are going to be going into lettuce wraps. You want to be able to wrap it up so you can eat it kind of on the go.
Yeah.
Okay, we're heating up some vegetable oil. And then we're going to throw our garlic. Now you can also throw some ginger in here.
I love ginger.
You can throw some hot chili peppers if you like it spicy. You can definitely play with the flavors. That's what I like about cooking, is that you don't need to be scientific about it. Okay, so we're gonna let that stir fry for a few minutes. And this recipe was adapted from the Diabetes Canada website. They used pork, but see, so what I've done is change it up, which you can do any recipes you find online that use a mild meat like chicken or pork. You can definitely switch up and make plant-based by adding tofu. So this is going to cook up.
And so usually when people are starting out with some meatless meals, I suggest doing something fun like Meatless Mondays. You know, you pick one day of the week where your household kind of plans around eating a vegetarian meal for that day. And I like doing that because once you start making, you know, a meal for a Meatless Monday, you often have leftovers, which leads into Meatless Tuesday or Tasty Tuesday.
Tasty Tuesday, I like that better.
Or Vegan Taco Tuesday, I don't know, whatever you want. But you have some, you know, leftovers. That's kind of a good cycle repeating itself, which is fun.
And I've done the crumbling of the tofu here because it's going to be more like a ground meat dish that way. You can also chop it up if you've got some extra time, make it small diced cubes, but I like the texture a little bit this way. Okay, so I'm gonna just pop in my tofu, crumble some more in there. Whoop.
Smells really good. So you haven't used salt yet?
No, and so I'm going to be using a low sodium soy sauce so that it is a little bit less salt. We're also using lots of garlic, lots of green onion, and then as well, actually what I might get you to do, Dani, for me is chop some basil and chop some cilantro.
Sounds great. I love chopping herbs. I just take a bunch and I just kind of mush them up like in my hand, like this, and I make a little curved ball, and then I just gently let my knife glide. But in this case with the herbs, you know, it's really important to chop them right before you use them so that they don't go rotten or moldy. Whatever you don't use, the hack is to wrap up in paper towel and store in the fridge.
You know what else I learned that I did with some herbs? You can definitely wrap them up, and then I also put some just in the water with a mason jar, and it lasted, I think I bought that dill a week, at least a week, if not more. So put it in a jar with some
Beautiful.
water and put it in the drawer of your fridge, and it's gonna last a lot
Great.
longer.
That looks really fresh. Excellent.
And that's why we don't need a lot of salt in this recipe. We're using fresh herbs instead. We're using the aromatics with the garlic. I could have probably put in some ginger really easily, or that hot pepper, which would have again added more flavor without salt. So nice thing about this tofu, if I was making meat, I'd have to sit here for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Well, hours.
Yeah, hours, literally. We don't have that kind of time. A lot of people don't have that kind of energy. So, you know, you want to eat for energy. You don't want to like spend all your energy cooking, right? So this is an important thing that you can do for yourself. And don't be scared to use new ingredients. You know, once you mask the flavor with all sorts of other things, it's going to have a very different outcome. It's not going to be like eating tofu. It's going to have a very different taste.
Okay, so I've got this tofu. You know, it kind of looks like chicken.
A little bit. Looks
right?
like turkey or chicken, right? Yeah.
And then we're gonna throw in half. Is it all mixed in there too?
It
so you're
sure
gonna throw
is.
in half your herbs into here. And
Now,
just
is it
kinda,
herb or herb?
herb?
Herb or herb? That is the $1 million question.
Potato, right?
Right.
So you're gonna warm that up, and it's just to get them wilted. What I like to do to increase the fiber, and I like to have a little bit of veggie with my wraps, is I also throw some carrots in there.
So you cook the carrots.
So I like to just at the end, I've turned off the heat.
Yeah.
I'm really just kind of mixing this up.
You're just getting them all friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Yeah.
marrying them all
Yeah.
together.
Very nice.
Pick the two best,
This is a good wrap.
okay? And now it's nothing fancy, right?
This is iceberg that you're using?
This is, yes, iceberg
Okay.
lettuce. It's gonna make that nice cup. Don't
Yeah,
you
you
feel like
use
you're
it
at
for-
Cactus or
Oh,
like?
I do. Who needs to go? Save your money, save your pennies for that wonderful trip that you've always wanted to take, right? Cook at home. This is really quick cooking. This is not a lot of time on your feet. This is so nice. Love it.
There you go, and we're done. You can do some extra sauce on there if you like. You can throw some peanuts or cashews on top if you like some nuts, but easy. And then if you want to make it a complete meal, you can also throw some rice. If you've got leftover rice, warm it up, put that under it. Now you've got carbs, protein, veg. Done.
Thank you so much for joining us on Come Cook With Us, and I would call this a wrap. Cheers.
I hope you enjoyed watching that recipe, and maybe one or two of you or more will try some tofu this week. I think we're going to launch into our next poll and pick your brain on this question here. How often do you incorporate plant-based or vegan meals into your weekly menu? And I will spare you my terrible French and hope that the answers are clear in both languages there.
If you haven't had a chance to answer yet, now's your chance to do so before Anja and Dani kind of share and reveal the answer and give a little bit more information.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here is that 31% of you regularly or once a week incorporate some plant-based eating, which is very nice to see. About 24% or a quarter of you do it more often, daily or several times a week. And then the other 50% is actually sometimes or never. Now, this would be something cool to ask, after the episode or after this session when you've watched a few more videos, and just see if your answer changes. But it really speaks to what we understand and appreciate and have compassion for, which is that it's very daunting to change the way that you're used to eating, and build in this new way of eating. Especially when you've been used to eating a certain way for a really long time. So it's interesting how we all can surprise ourselves. And sometimes it could be something a friend says or a family member suggests, or maybe someone comes to your house who is vegetarian or follows a plant-based diet for health or other reasons, and it will be a good time then to try to experiment with some of these plant-based recipes. We want to show you how easy it is. And so hopefully you'll consider making some substitutions. Something we also really like to talk about in our show, like Anja mentioned, is that we don't want to take away meat. We don't want to try to take something away from you. We're trying to encourage you to add more proteins from a varied group of foods to your diet. And so hopefully some of those foods will be plant-based foods because we know that they're very beneficial. They can be more cost effective, and it doesn't have to be really difficult. It can be as simple as a handful of nuts. It can be as simple as doing overnight oats for breakfast or doing what we're going to show you next, which is a black bean burger. So I really hope that you will try making your own burgers from scratch. This is the fastest burger recipe I think out there, and there are no additives in it. It's the freshest quality ingredients. It's not very costly to put this together, and it's a great recipe for batch cooking. So let's get into the black bean burger.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Come Cook With Us. Today we're going to be making protein black bean burgers to help you cook for energy.
I'm so excited to share this recipe with you because it's easy. All I've done is just opened a can of black beans, and I'm going to basically preheat my oven, which I've done, and in a mixing bowl I'm going to smash these. And what I love most is the smashing bit. Now it does require a bit of arm strength, so if you don't want to smash them by hand, you can put them in the food processor and just sort of blend them. The reason I'm doing that is because beans are protein, but they're also part carbohydrate. So I don't really need a lot of flour in this recipe because the beans are basically like a 2-for-1. So, and black beans are great. They're a really good source of fiber as well, and they have a lot of really good flavor, kind of meaty flavor to them. So I really like them in a burger. And the color is similar, I would say, to beef. So if you're not ready to go all black bean, you can do a beef bean combo, which some of my clients really appreciate because they don't want to give up beef altogether. If you're trying to become vegetarian, this is a good starter recipe. More vegetarian, I guess. Eat more plant-based. Great, so I've mashed this. Now I'm going to, actually, you know, I'm just gonna throw the egg in because it's all gonna go in together.
Do you want a fork?
I might just keep my potato masher.
All right.
Might just keep that. And then I'm going to put some Worcestershire sauce. I don't know how to say that, I'm so sorry.
And we tried to practice before.
Yeah, I can't.
Worcestershire.
And then I've just blended some of my own spice mixes, onion powder, smoked paprika, cumin, and I love flax meal. I can't tell you how much I love flax. I use it in everything. It's such a great way to thicken things, and you can basically use flax instead of egg as well. It's called a flax egg. So you would use 1 tablespoon of ground flax and 2 tablespoons of water to replace egg in recipes if you want.
So this one, could I do it without the egg and just do flax seeds? Probably could.
You could.
You could bind together, right?
It would. What I like about adding the egg is it adds a bit of fat as well. And sometimes I do like a bit of fat in the recipes because it just helps to kind of create moisture in a recipe and just really delicious mouthfeel, excuse me. Okay, so it's all blended and ready to go. All I need to do is set up my baking pan. So you've got this paste right here.
Smells really good. I can smell those spices you mix together. Hey?
Yeah, the spices are really, really nice. You can choose whatever spices that you like. And next I'm going to prep my oven tray and I'm going to show you how to form the burgers. So here's my cookie tray and I've lined it with parchment paper and I'm ready to form my burgers. I'm just using a measuring cup and I've got like about half a cup because I kind of want them to be a bit bigger. Otherwise I would have used my cookie scoop. As you know, I love my cookie scoop, but not today.
So half a cup, you're gonna get about 2 servings of protein per burger there, right?
Nice. That's what I want. I want it to be really like hearty. If you want this as a falafel kind of option too, you could use the cookie scoop and make smaller kind of mini burgers or sliders. And then that could be also a really nice snack after exercise or Just,
And I think the way you're making these, they would also be great if you want a quick meal. You can pop them in the freezer.
Yep.
And then you can use them as leftovers and just reheat them in the oven or in the microwave.
I really like that idea because honestly, I use my freezer a lot for that. There are days where I just don't have time to cook. And when you have days that are good days and you're batch cooking, you can just plan ahead and then just pop them out. And you can even cook and freeze them too if you want, or grill and freeze them.
So we've got 1 can of black beans at about 3 servings of burgers, so about 6 servings of protein.
Perfect.
That's
Thank
not
you.
bad.
All right,
Do you want me to
Anja,
put them in
please.
the oven? All right.
And that's going to be at 200 degrees. And they're going to cook,
200 Celsius.
excuse me, degrees
People talk in
Celsius.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's right.
What's that, 400?
About 400, yeah, like the same temperature as you would bake bread, and for about 30 minutes. Another good tip that you can use is you can just brush them with a little bit of oil and then they get kind of a bit more golden on top. So that's a nice tip that you can do to help create a bit of a more beautiful looking burger.
And then you've got them in the oven, so you can go get other things done. You can prep your veggies for the burger, or if you want to have a salad on the side, you're not sitting at the stove frying with them. That's why it's also another great way to put them in the oven.
That's right, and you can put your, for example, baked pears on the lower shelf and cook these on the upper shelf, or your cookies. You can kind of use your oven to its max and get a bunch of oven dishes going in one go. So, have you tried a Meatless Monday? Did you try this bean burger recipe? And thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Come Cook With Us. We'll see you next time.
So hopefully that video will inspire you a little bit to try some black bean burgers. I will correct myself. I think we filmed this a little bit later at night, and one serving of protein is actually half a cup of beans. So each of those burgers makes about 1 serving of protein, which is a great way to start. And again, like Dani said, you can also incorporate some. You'd want to cook the beef ahead of time and mix it in if you're really just starting with using beans to make the meat stretch further. You can saute it ahead of time, then mix it in with the black beans and go ahead with everything else. And then you've got a little bit more protein per patty. Okay, I think next we have another poll.
So there should be another poll on the screen. You can read through the question, submit your answer. And again, Dani and Anja will be sharing the answer and providing more information once the poll closes.
Okay, oh, it looks like it's very, very split. Other than family preference might be hard. Most people are having a hard time with getting their family on board. So it looks like family preference, 43% of you. Hopefully maybe trying some of these new recipes can help. And then I see the rest are about split with the lack of variety, some time constraints, costs of ingredients, and not enough protein. So I'm really hoping that after some of the videos that we've shown today, that you can maybe inspire your family as well with some of these recipes, if you can get on board with trying one new food. Some of the other common things we saw was, and that we hear about, is really not knowing what to make. So lack of variety, not enough protein, the time constraints. And that's why Dani and I have really tried hard and listened to our patient partners as well to pick recipes that are quicker and take less time and energy in the kitchen, so that you have more time to be with your family or to rest or to do the other things that you have to do in your day. And we also know that it can be hard to take such a shift to do more plant-based eating. Many of us grew up at a time when it's meat, potatoes, vegetables, and that can be what your family also prefers, because, you know, sometimes it is easier to throw some chicken in the oven because you don't have to add much and to make it taste. I mean, chicken of all the meats probably doesn't taste like much, but you put a bit of herbs on it and then you throw it in the oven, which can seem easier. So really what we're hoping is that seeing how easy it can be with beans, how knowing that you don't have to worry about the cross-contamination, which is another thing when you're cooking with meat, you do have to sanitize counters and be very mindful of how long things are cooking and making sure that there's a lot of food safety involved. So we hope to take that out of your mental load as well when you're cooking more plant-based, because beans are already cooked, tofu's already cooked, you just are really reheating it. With these recipes that we've shown, we're hoping that you can see that you can just add, you don't have to take away. I think that's the theme of today, is ways that you can add to your day, ways that you can add to your plate and mixing it in. We like to think of more of a plant forward or plant first, where thinking of the foods that you traditionally make at home, how can you add plants to it? You can be creative, particularly with, we're going to get to a next recipe very soon, with what you do with baked goods. Not something we particularly think about for adding plants into, but if you think about zucchini muffins or carrot muffins, or adding, what we're going to add is carrots to cookies, that can really help hide the taste if you're really just starting and peppering in these vegetables and getting you and your family used to having the plants in their food. You really don't taste it in a lot of the baked goods, so that can be a good first step. And you can really start to be creative with what else you're doing once you feel comfortable with one dish. Maybe today you can go home with just one that you feel excited about. Other things we like to try, again, if you're trying to get your family on board, is using things like cauliflower and doing cauliflower rice. So you may not want to go straight to white cauliflower rice, but you can add it to your rice, and that's going to boost the fiber and add another vegetable, and your family might not even notice. Other things we like to do is, again, those black bean burgers, putting them with some meat, or use lentils and putting them into soups or sauces. They tend to just kind of hide in there. So as long as you're using like red lentils, they do turn quite to mush, and you can't really taste or know the texture. The green ones you might not, and brown you might not get away with as easily. And the other thing I saw on there in the polls, one of them was cost. So definitely with the rising costs of fruits and vegetables, I am hearing from a lot of my patients and my clients how difficult it can be to buy produce. And they say, well, when you're trying to get me to get more color on my plate, how can I do that when even I think russet potatoes have now gone up in price? What we really like to try to destigmatize is frozen fruits and vegetables, and sometimes even the canned fruits and vegetables. When groceries are really expensive, or when in the seasons like this, where there's not a lot of produce that's local or in season, it can be a lot cheaper to shop the freezer and even shop the shelves. We're really trying to get away from always going around the outside of the grocery store, which was, I think, something we were promoting 5-10 years ago, that you can find some good deals in the freezer section or on the shelf, as we use those canned beans, lots of nutrition, protein, fiber, and you can find them for $1.99 a can sometimes if you're shopping sales. The other good thing about the frozen produce is it's not going to rot in your fridge. How many of us go to the grocery store and get so excited, we're going to try a new recipe, we make a whole meal plan, we put it in our crisper, and then we forget about it. And we open that crisper and you see everything wilted, and you're just so distraught because how am I going to cook with this? And also now I've thrown away so much money. So the freezer, it's in there. It's not going to go bad. You can store it for much longer. You don't have to buy as much. You can buy a few of the fresh produce and then and get through that at the beginning of the week, especially for those of us who don't have much time to go shopping multiple times during the week, and then go to your freezer and then use those fruits and vegetables. Especially now, berries can be $4.99, $6.99, $8.99 for like little pints, where they're much cheaper to get them in the freezer, and then you can just put them in the fridge to thaw overnight and put them on your oats or eat them as a snack. Okay. So the last video that we have today is going to talk about or is going to show you how to make some flax cookies. We put carrots in this recipe and it adds a little bit of fiber. The carrots also add a little bit of sweetness. If you really don't want to see the carrots, we've grated them, but I mean, if you have a food processor, you can throw it in there and really get them to be small and hardly see them in there. So we'll launch that. One more thing was going to say about my produce. So the other things you can do is roast vegetables. So those root vegetables can be less expensive than some of the other greens. And if you're worried about potassium levels, you can double boil them and then roast them, and they'll store in the fridge for 3 to 5 days. So you can use them throughout the week. And then you can also mash them and put them into baked goods. So they can be another option if you want something like carrots or yams or sweet, and can be really added to baked goods. So we'll go and launch the next video for walnut flax carrot cookies.
Hello and welcome to Come Cook With Us. I'm Dani, dietitian, here with Anja, dietitian. So let's get started, Anja. I'm excited to use some of these ingredients. The first ingredient I'm going to use is half a cup of canola oil. So this is a butter-free recipe. Now there's nothing wrong with butter, but canola oil does have that heart-healthy profile. So if you want to bake lots and eat lots of cookies, it's a good swap to do for butter when it's possible. So I've just got a half a cup of that, and then I've got some brown sugar. Again, it's 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar. If you're trying to balance your blood sugar, it's 2/3 of a cup is not a lot for the amount of cookies that we'll be making. And what's so nice is everything's really easy. It's kind of like a one bowl moment, so I don't fuss, right? So I've got the egg in there, and then I'm just gonna put some vanilla extract. I really use more than a teaspoon, people, because it is so great for flavor. So I do love my vanilla extract. It is a pricey purchase, but it's worth it.
Got good flavor balance in there.
Great flavor balance. Thank you so much.
This looks like a very forgiving recipe, because I know when I'm making baked goods, I'm always measuring everything and making sure I'm getting all the measurements correct.
Yep.
Tell me more about why this is so easy.
Because you're not worried about flour, and so you don't have to, have an order to things. You can just kind of dump everything. So 3/4 of a cup of rolled oats. Instead of flour, how we're doing this to thicken this recipe is I'm gonna use a little bit of ground flax here.
So that flaxseed is adding omega-3 fatty acids, and it's also gonna add some fiber, good for your gut, help keep you full. And it adds that nutty flavor too. I like flax seeds for that as well.
This is such a beautiful smell too. These flax seeds are great, and it's a local, it's Canadiana, as I like to say. So I like to support Canadian goods. And so the carrot is going to be your sweetness factor and your texture, and same with the walnuts. So you could chop them with a knife and be really fancy, but I sort of do it the way my grandma did, which is just take it with your hands and just chop it up. So if you want, you can lend me a hand.
I can get, yeah.
I like
therapy.
I like this because it's therapy. And walnuts are a really great source of healthy oils as well. And so they give you a crunch, but they also give you that satiety factor or fullness factor. So, it's a good kind of fat to add to your recipes and salads. And then all I do is just take my fork back and I just mix it all together till I've done a good job of incorporating it.
And what we want to show, so yes, we've made these cookies heart healthy by using canola oil, we've used the walnuts, we've used the flax seeds, and they're still a cookie. They do still have sugar, they do have the eggs, and they're still great to use for breakfast or snacks, or as Dani was saying, you can use them as your recovery snack as well. We do really want to say that all foods can fit and that desserts are still a part of your day. We like to make these so that we can use them as different times of the day, breakfast, lunch, snack, and not just as a dessert.
Lastly, I'll add the flour. That's 3/4 of a cup. And that's going to make a really nice dough. You can use gluten-free flour, you can use, almond flour, you can use more ground flax.
Do you know a trick that I've now learned as well with my kids and trying to increase iron levels is what I sometimes do in my baked goods, in my cookies and muffins, is I do 1/3 of a cup of baby cereal, and that's gonna give you a little bit of extra iron in there. So you swap out 1/3 of a cup of flour or gluten-free flour for 1/3 of a cup of baby cereal.
Oh, that's a great idea.
It works. Don't do too much more than that though, but it does change it a little bit.
Perfect. So I've got this really nice paste right now, which is great, which is what I want. And then I just use my trusted cookie scoop, and I just do a level scoop like that, and I just go. This is so efficient, easy, quick. No resting the dough, no kneading the dough. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you want to massage your food, that's cool. But today I'm in a rush, so I want to get it off and cooked and baked and ready to go as my dessert. It's a great breakfast cookie, and it's a great snack cookie. My kids love this cookie, my husband too. Like, my whole family really, really likes this recipe, and hopefully you'll want to try it out and feel safe enjoying cookies, and knowing that you're getting lots of good nutrition and enjoyment out of them.
And so if I make, this looks like it's gonna make quite a few. If I make lots, do you freeze the dough? Do you freeze them once they're baked? What do you do?
They don't last that long.
Okay.
They're gone. They're just gone. They're small, right? So another thing I like about using, measurements when you're making things is you can control the size. And for me, the secret to a successful diet is portion control. If you have really a good handle on your portions, you can eat anything and everything and enjoy your food without worry or guilt. And that's kind of why we want to do this episode, because we want to just let you live your life a little bit and have fun and not always worry about the sugar content of everything. All right, can you pop those in the oven? So these cookies are fresh out of the oven, and no matter which way your cookie crumbles, I hope you'll try this dessert.
So hopefully this recipe is, again, something that you find that looks like it's easy and something that you can try and can be used as a great snack. What we also really like doing with these cookies is you can have them as a late night snack, or if you want to combine them in the morning, if you need a breakfast on the go, you can add a smoothie or some yogurt or even a hard-boiled egg or something that makes it easy to travel. And these cookies will be your source of fiber and a little bit of protein as well. So the last poll of today is, would you consider adding a greater variety of foods, including vegetarians, in your meal plan? And yeah, let us know if some of these recipes have inspired you.
So just like Anja said, this is our last poll of the day, and we'll go through some questions that have been coming up once we get through the poll.
Oh, good, yay! 90% of you have said yes, and a few of you have said maybe, so that's great. We really, our goal and the best that we can hear from the Come Cook With Us and from our recipes is knowing that it helps people feel more confident to try some of these recipes. People can say, well, I can Google it, but there's so many recipes when you Google vegetarian or vegan that it can be really daunting. We've tried to keep our recipes kidney friendly, budget friendly, and really cooking friendly, really easy. So even if you're not good in the kitchen or don't find yourself or quote unquote chef, really we're hoping that some of these recipes can be something that will inspire you to get in the kitchen. And maybe you can at least make one new food after today, or go to the grocery store and look for one new item. Maybe you're going to add some carrots and look for ways that you can grate them, whether it's putting them in a cookie or grate them to put into something else that you cook at home. And I think I want to leave lots of time for questions. So I think I'll wrap it up with that. And Heather, you can help us with.
Absolutely. So there are a few questions about where these recipes can be found. And if you go to the chat on FeedLoop, the link to the Kidney Community Kitchen is up there. They might not be there at the moment, but they will be posted there soon. And so that was a couple of the questions, but I'm going to keep going. I'll read out the questions for everyone, and then I'll let you go through some answers. So the first one is from someone who's saying that their husband's hemodialysis takes place from 4 to 8, I'm assuming evening. So we have a heartier lunch, but skip supper. Are there any ideas for nutritious snacks for him to have after dialysis that might satisfy him, but not keep him from sleeping comfortably?
Awesome. So that's a great question. I think a lot of us might have a question like that, even if it's not on dialysis, if you're doing shift work or you're doing anything where your times and your meals don't fall into the quote unquote 8, 12, 6. So it's great you've shifted and you have a bigger meal earlier in the day. One important thing to help keep you feel full, and for many of us or for anyone on dialysis, is getting, again, enough protein. So some snack ideas might be those cookies that we've made and then combining them, like I said, with some cheese or some egg or some nuts, again, to get that protein and carbohydrate at night. Or those bean burgers is another serving of protein that you can make into a smaller sandwich. And having something with a little bit of carbohydrate and a little bit of protein will help stabilize your blood sugars overnight and should be enough to help you feel full till the next morning.
Great suggestions. These ones are very specific. The next question is, how many servings of protein are recommended daily?
So that is going to vary from person to person, depending on your age, depending on your activity, your fitness, and your journey in the kidney disease. So everyone's going to be quite different. You might want to check with your healthcare team if you have someone, your doctor or a dietitian can help really, because it varies really from 0.8 grams per kilogram of your body weight all the way up to 1.3 to 1.5. So really asking your healthcare team is going to be the best option there.
Okay, next question. So this looks like a question specific to the last recipe. Is it equal parts replacing butter for canola oil?
For the
Oh, maybe not.
cookies-
It's the next,
for the
sorry, I'm
cookies?
reading two questions at once. So this question might be a little bit more general. Is it equal parts replacing butter for canola oil?
Okay, I think it will depend on your recipe. For butter, if it's melted, like if the recipe calls for melted butter, you can replace it 1-to-1. We haven't tried this recipe with like a softened butter or making, like if you're thinking of a cookie recipe and then you're gonna cream the butter. Definitely in cooking, and definitely if it calls for melted, you can do it 1-to-1. In more of like a baked good, I'm not sure about the results. I'd have to trial the recipes.
Right. Okay, this one I think is specific to the cookies. Can you half the sugar with the add of the carrots?
I think the sugar is already quite low, but because I believe, I can't remember if this one came from the Diabetes Canada or where we modified it from. As a general rule, you can, most recipes, if you're really starting to slowly change your family's or yours preferences, sugar you can cut directly 1/3 cup from the start. Like you can definitely make it less, a third less, and then slowly even get it to half by using other sweeteners like the carrots or applesauce. But definitely you can start with a 1/3 cup less than what the recipe calls for.
Great, thank you. All right, we've got another one. What type of protein powder do you recommend? It's overwhelming and not sure what to look for.
There are so many protein powders out there, and it is a question I really get asked very often by my patients. The best thing for you to do would be to check with your healthcare provider, because there are so many different ones. And again, like I mentioned earlier, your protein needs are going to vary based on your kidney disease journey. And those who are on dialysis are going to need a little bit more than those on just pre-dialysis. So again, the only thing I would say is look for the less as little ingredients as possible in the protein powders. And then if you can, check with your healthcare team if a protein powder is right for you, because many of us might not need it. And so save your money if you don't need it.
Those are good tips. Just while we wait to see if any other questions pop in, again, there was a couple more questions about sharing the link to the recipe. They will be posted to the Kidney Community Kitchen, so check back often. They will be there soon. And we'll just wait to see if we have, here we go. What do you think of using brewer's yeast instead of cheese, for example, in risotto?
Do you mean brewer's yeast or nutritional yeast? They're different. So brewer's yeast is what they use in, I think, beer. And I've only ever used it to make like breastfeeding cookies. Whereas nutritional yeast is often a vegan substitute. And people use it for like vegan Parmesan.
Yes to nutritional yeast.
Okay. Yeah, so I have had success personally at home substituting it. What I really, to help get my family on board of more vegetarian eating, is I mix it and slowly, because it is a different taste, but nutritional yeast is more of a cheesy taste. And I think it's on the Kidney Foundation website. We do, and we have videos to come.
Nice.
Foreshadowing with that we use nutritional yeast, or for popcorn as well, to add some flavors, because it is a nice savory flavor.
Great, thank you.
Store it in the fridge for nutritional yeast if you buy it, and if you can buy some of these newer ingredients, if you can find them anywhere in bulk, so you don't have to buy really big bags. And then flax seeds, chia seeds, and nutritional yeast all store much better and longer in the fridge.
Great.
So just a tip from someone who's dealt with spoiled stuff.
All right, there's still time if you have other questions. And while we're waiting for more questions, I just want to again thank you, Anja and Dani, for sharing these delicious recipes with us. We've learned a lot. I think I might be changing my meal plan for the next few days to include some of these recipes. They look delicious and so easy to make. And I really find that key in our household. Give you a few more seconds in case there's anyone still typing away, any questions that they have. Remember, if you have questions, you can also send them to kidneyprograms@kidney.ca. If you don't have any questions at the moment, but you want to follow up later on, you can always send that email. Is Kidney Community Kitchen good for transplant?
Yes. So the Kidney Community Kitchen has a lot of different recipes, and you can use, I haven't looked at all of them, but most of them are good for anyone, even people without kidney disease. I've tried a lot of them at home. But yes, so definitely main thing to worry about with transplant is just if anything uses, no, most of them should be fine. I can't think of anything that we've made or looked at that wouldn't be.
Here's another question. What is a good bedtime snack if you have iron at night?
To help, are you looking to help absorb your iron? Are you like taking an iron pill?
We'll see if there gets to be a couple more, a little bit more added on to that question.
You want iron, you want it on an empty stomach usually to help your body absorb it better. So I'd ask your healthcare team. It depends on, what they say. Sometimes they say to take it with something with vitamin C, so like a fruit or vegetable to help your body absorb it better. Yeah. Again, most people, a small snack with a carbohydrate and a protein are gonna feel better having a small snack like that if you're feeling hungry at night.
All right, another one. A lot of the beans and lentils are high in potassium. Are there any recommendations that you have for that?
Yeah, so we didn't touch on it much in the recipes we made today, but what more traditional learning before was avoid beans, avoid fruits and vegetables, avoid nuts and seeds for phosphorus, for potassium, because they're higher. What we've seen in the literature now is actually that the potassium and the phosphorus in whole foods like nuts and seeds and beans and fruits and vegetables is actually less bioavailable. And what I mean is that our body uses it less, and actually we don't see the same rises in blood sugar levels, or potassium and phosphorus blood levels. So actually what we've seen is the opposite. So including things that are rich in fiber, like fruits and vegetables and beans, helps to lower potassium levels. If you're concerned, some people do run higher, and so double boiling, and the same as well as soaking and boiling beans. The canned beans are lower in potassium than like dried, because of, again, the processing. So soaking them overnight, and then again, if you want to just mix them with some meat, that can help as well. Hopefully that answers it. Don't be too afraid to use beans.
Good. What is the sodium amount for a transplant patient, or was there a recommended amount of sodium for a transplant patient?
So that will also vary from patient to patient. So for your particular, I would ask your healthcare team. If you're not having to restrict for fluid, like it's to our hands, I'd say general 2,000 to 2,300 milligrams a day, but some might need less than that if you've got any issues with fluid retention. So it's about less than a teaspoon.
I think that's pretty much our questions. I also want to mention that Dani and Anja have lots of videos on the kidneywellnesshub.ca website. So you guys can check that website out as well anytime for more videos, more recipes there. And I guess that we're going to start concluding the session. Thank you everyone for joining. Our next session will be the Caregiver Corner. It's starting at 4:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you'll get a chance to hear about inspiring caregiving professional journeys of some of our speakers. So we hope to see everyone there soon. Thank you again, Anja and Dani, and hopefully we'll see you back here soon.
Thank you, everyone.